When the world tells you that beauty is in what you wear, in how you speak, in how you show yourself to others, the divine speaks of a different kind of beauty. A beauty that the eye can't capture. A beauty that no mirror can reflect. The greatest adornment of a woman is modesty. Let me ask you this. Can you imagine a world where the true value of a woman was not in her appearance, but in her character, in her dignity, in her modesty? That is the standard set for her, not by society, but by the creator of the heavens and the earth. Let's dive deep into understanding this powerful truth and why modesty is not just an act. It is the essence of a woman's strength and beauty. The idea that the greatest adornment of a woman is modesty goes far beyond the superficial understanding that many may have of beauty. We live in a world where society often equates beauty with physical appearance, with what is seen on the outside. The advertisements, the magazines, the social media influencers, they all tell us that beauty is something to be flaunted. They tell us that beauty is in the latest fashion trends, the perfect makeup, the figure that is on display. But there is a deeper truth, one that is not found in external appearances, but in the heart, in the mind, and in the way a woman carries herself in this world. True beauty, the kind that has lasting value, is the beauty of modesty. Modesty is not something that can be captured by a camera lens or measured by the world's standards. It is an internal adornment, one that shines brighter than any piece of jewelry or the most expensive dress. It is the crown that a woman wears, one that cannot be bought, but is cultivated through a life of dignity, respect, and a deep sense of purpose. When a woman is modest, she is not drawing attention to herself through her appearance. Instead, she is attracting attention through her character, her wisdom, and her actions. She is showing the world that her value does not lie in the surface, but in the depth of her soul. In a society that pushes the notion that beauty is something to be exposed, modesty becomes an act of resistance, a resistance against the pressures to conform to a false standard of what a woman should be. It is not about suppressing one's beauty. Rather, it is about protecting it. It is about understanding that your value is not defined by how others perceive you, but by the choices you make about who you are and how you choose to present yourself in this world. Modesty is not just about covering the body. It is about cultivating a sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation. It is about embracing the notion that you, as a woman, are a treasure. Something that is so precious that it deserves to be protected from the prying eyes of the world. The external world might tell you that you need to show more, be more exposed, be more visible in order to be valued. But the truth is that modesty teaches us the opposite. It teaches us that there is strength in being reserved, in choosing not to reveal everything to the world. It teaches us that our value is not in how much we expose, but in how much we protect and preserve of ourselves. The world's idea of beauty is fleeting. It changes with the seasons, with the trends, with the media's ever-evolving definition of what is attractive. Modesty, however, is timeless. It transcends the limitations of fashion and external standards. The woman who adorns herself with modesty is not bound by time or trends. Her beauty is constant because it is rooted in her inner self, in her values, and in the choices she makes each day to uphold her dignity. This beauty does not fade with age or change with circumstances. It remains steadfast, untouched by the superficial standards of society. When modesty becomes the greatest adornment of a woman, it is a reflection of her strength. It is a strength that comes from within, from a deep understanding of her own worth. A woman who chooses modesty is not weak. She is not someone who is afraid to show herself. Rather, she is someone who knows that true beauty is not in what is revealed, but in what is protected. She is someone who has learned that her body is not an object for others to look at, but a vessel that should be treated with respect, reverence, and care. Modesty is her shield, her armor, protecting her from the world's pressures and from the harmful forces that seek to distort her true worth. Moreover, modesty is not just about the outward expression. It is a state of mind, a way of living. It is reflected in the way a woman speaks, in the way she behaves, in the way she interacts with others. Modesty is present in her humility, in her refusal to boast or to seek attention. It is in the way she carries herself with grace, without arrogance or pride. It is in her ability to shine without needing to be seen, to be heard without needing to raise her voice. Modesty is the quiet strength that emanates from her, drawing others to her not because of her external appearance, but because of her inner beauty, which is evident in everything she does. So when we speak of modesty as the greatest adornment, we are not speaking merely of the clothes a woman wears or the way she looks. We are speaking of something far deeper, something that transcends the fleeting nature of fashion and trends. We are speaking of an inner beauty that is reflected in every aspect of her life, from the way she dresses to the way she speaks to the way she holds herself with grace and dignity. This modesty is her true adornment, and it is more beautiful than any outward decoration could ever be. Modesty, when embraced fully, is a reflection of an inner strength that cannot be measured by any external standard. In today's world, strength is often associated with power, with the ability to control, to dominate, and to impose one's will upon others. We hear about strength in terms of how loudly we speak, how forcefully we act, how much we achieve. But true strength, especially the strength of a woman, is found in her ability to remain grounded, to hold firm to her values and principles, regardless of the pressures or distractions around her. Modesty is the cornerstone of this kind of strength. It is a strength that doesn't seek to be seen, to be validated, or to be praised. Instead, it is a quiet strength, one that speaks through the way a woman carries herself, the choices she makes, and the way she upholds her dignity without needing to prove it to anyone. There is a profound power in choosing modesty. It is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a submission to societal expectations. Rather, it is an intentional act of self-awareness and self-respect. A woman who chooses modesty is not someone who lacks confidence. On the contrary, she is a woman who is so confident in her own worth that she doesn't need to showcase it for others to see. She understands that her value does not lie in the external validation that comes from being noticed or praised by the world, but in the quiet and steady assurance that she is enough as she is. This type of strength requires immense self-discipline. It is not easy to resist the pressures of a society that constantly tells us that our worth is determined by how much we expose, how much we reveal, how much we seek attention. Modesty is a conscious choice to reject these shallow definitions of value, and it takes real strength to live according to that choice in a world that often seems to reward the opposite. In many ways, modesty is a form of emotional resilience. The world is full of distractions, temptations, and external pressures that seek to undermine a woman's sense of self. From a young age, women are bombarded with messages about how they should look, what they should wear, and how they should behave in order to be deemed attractive, successful, or worthy. These messages often lead to insecurity as women feel they must meet these ever-changing and often unrealistic standards. But modesty offers a refuge from this emotional turmoil. When a woman embraces modesty, she is no longer at the mercy of the world's expectations. She finds strength in the ability to detach her sense of self-worth from the external forces that seek to define her. Modesty gives her the power to stand firm in who she is, to hold fast to her values, and to reject the superficial measures of beauty and success that the world tries to impose upon her. This strength is not just internal, but also external. A modest woman commands respect, not by demanding it, but by embodying the dignity and grace that come from within. She does not need to shout for attention or compete for admiration. Her strength is evident in the way she carries herself with composure, in the way she speaks with kindness and thoughtfulness, and in the way she acts with integrity and humility. Modesty allows her to be confident without arrogance, graceful without pretension. She knows that her worth is not something that needs to be flaunted or displayed. It is something that is inherent, something that radiates from her without effort. The power of this quiet strength is profound because it doesn't rely on external validation, but instead emanates from an unshakable sense. Moreover, modesty protects a woman's inner peace. In a world where comparison and competition are rife, it can be incredibly draining to constantly measure yourself against others. But modesty provides a shield against this destructive cycle. When a woman chooses modesty, she is not caught up in the constant need to compare herself to others. She does not feel the pressure to keep up with the latest trends, to match the beauty standards set by society, or to compete for attention. Her focus is inward, on maintaining her own integrity and sense of self, rather than on how she is perceived by the outside world. This inner peace allows her to be more focused, more content, and more aligned with her true purpose. It gives her the strength to rise above the noise and the chaos of the world and to stay rooted in what truly matters. This strength, however, is not always easy to maintain. It requires constant vigilance and a deep connection to one's values and beliefs. The world is constantly shifting, and the standards of beauty and success seem to change at a rapid pace. It can be easy to feel lost, to feel that your worth is slipping away as the world around you changes. But modesty helps anchor a woman to something far more stable. Something that doesn't change with trends or external circumstances. It connects her to a higher purpose, a deeper understanding of her worth that transcends the fleeting nature of external approval. In this way, modesty acts as a source of enduring strength, one that can weather any storm and remain unwavering even in the face of adversity. In essence, modesty is not about submission or weakness. It is a powerful declaration of a woman's ability to remain true to herself, to hold fast to her values, and to refuse to be swayed by the pressures of the world. It is a strength that comes from within, a strength that is grounded in self-respect, integrity, and a deep understanding of one's own worth. A modest woman is a woman who stands tall, not because she seeks to be noticed, but because she knows that her true beauty lies in the strength of her character and the purity of her soul. This is the kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud to be heard. It speaks in the quiet confidence of a woman who knows her value and walks through the world with the dignity and grace that come from a heart and mind that are anchored in modesty. The value of a woman, true to her essence, is never confined to what is visible to the eye. Society often pushes the idea that beauty can be measured by the shape of a body, the length of hair, or the clothes one wears. It tells us that in order to be valued, a woman must constantly mold herself to the world's ever-changing standards of beauty. But when we look deeper, we realize that the essence of a woman's worth goes far beyond mere appearance. The true beauty of a woman is found not in her outward presentation, but in her inner self, in the depth of her character, her wisdom, and her integrity. Modesty is the key that unlocks this deeper understanding of value. Modesty is not about hiding oneself or downplaying one's beauty. It is about recognizing that true beauty, the kind that lasts, is not something that can be seen through the eyes of others, but something that is felt through the heart. A woman who embraces modesty understands that her worth is not tied to how much she reveals or how much she conforms to the superficial beauty standards set by society. She recognizes that there is a greater value in keeping some parts of herself private, in maintaining a sense of mystery, and in letting her character and actions speak for her. When a woman chooses modesty, she is making a conscious decision to place value on what truly matters: her inner qualities, her kindness, her wisdom, her compassion, and her strength. These are the attributes that define her worth, not her appearance. She knows that just as a diamond's true value is not determined by how much light it reflects, but by its intrinsic properties, her true worth is not determined by how much she reveals or how others perceive her, but by the goodness and integrity that lie within her heart. In a world that often defines beauty by external standards, modesty is a powerful statement of a woman's self-awareness and self-worth. It is a statement that she values herself too much to let her value be defined by anyone or anything other than herself and her creator. Modesty challenges the conventional narrative that beauty must be displayed for others to see. Instead, it teaches that beauty is something that transcends physical appearance. It resides in the choices a woman makes, the values she upholds, and the way she treats others. It is in the way she speaks with grace, listens with empathy, and acts with integrity. This understanding of beauty reshapes how a woman sees herself and how others see her. When a woman understands that her value is not dependent on her physical appearance, she becomes liberated from the constant pressure to meet the world's standards of beauty. She no longer feels the need to compare herself to others or seek validation from external sources. She becomes free to embrace her unique self, knowing that her worth is unshakable, irrespective of how she looks or how others perceive her. This freedom is incredibly empowering. It allows a woman to walk through the world with her head held high, not because of the way she looks, but because she knows that her value lies in who she is, not how she appears. Modesty also invites a kind of respect that is not based on the fleeting appeal of physical beauty, but on the lasting admiration of a woman's character. A woman who dresses modestly is not seeking to attract the world's attention to her body, but to her mind, her heart, and her actions. This kind of respect is far deeper and more enduring than any superficial admiration. It is a respect that acknowledges her worth as a human being, her contributions to society, and the strength of her character. This respect is not earned by conforming to the world's expectations, but by living authentically, by staying true to her values, and by embodying the strength and dignity that come with modesty. In embracing modesty, a woman also gives herself the gift of peace. There is a certain peace that comes from knowing that you do not need to constantly measure yourself against others, that you do not need to seek approval or validation from the external world. Modesty allows a woman to be content with herself, to find fulfillment in the richness of her character, and to walk through the world with a confidence that comes from knowing who she truly is. This inner peace is not fragile or dependent on external circumstances, but is rooted in an unshakable sense of self-respect and self-worth. Furthermore, modesty is not just about the way a woman dresses or presents herself outwardly. It is a reflection of the way she thinks, speaks, and interacts with others. Modesty influences the way she conducts herself in every situation. A modest woman speaks with kindness, listens with an open heart, and approaches life with humility and grace. She understands that true beauty is not something to be flaunted or displayed, but something to be cultivated from within, to be shared with the world through her actions and her interactions. In this way, modesty becomes a reflection of her deeper values, the qualities that define her as a person, not just as a woman. When we begin to look at beauty through the lens of modesty, we begin to see it in a new light. Beauty is no longer just about how someone looks, but about how they carry themselves, how they treat others, and how they live their lives. It is about the way a woman speaks truth, the way she shows compassion, and the way she stands firm in her values. Modesty redefines beauty as something that is timeless, something that is not bound by trends or external expectations, but is instead a reflection of the inner strength and dignity that a woman carries within her Ultimately, modesty teaches us that our value is not in how we look, but in who we are. It teaches us to embrace our true worth, to cultivate beauty from within, and to walk through the world with the confidence that comes from knowing that our beauty is not something that can be measured by others, but something that is defined by our actions, our character, and our integrity. The value of a woman is found not in what she wears or how she looks, but in the goodness, kindness, and strength that she carries with her every day. Modesty, in its true sense, is not merely an external action. It is a profound internal state that protects both the body and the soul from the dangers of the world. It acts as a shield, guarding the woman's dignity and her self-worth against the corrosive effects of society's temptations and pressures. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with messages that seek to diminish our sense of value by objectifying our physical appearances, by suggesting that our worth lies solely in how we look or how much we reveal of ourselves. But modesty offers a powerful form of protection from these forces, enabling a woman to preserve both her body and her soul from being exploited or diminished by these societal influences. At its core, modesty is an act of self-preservation, a decision to protect one's most valuable and sacred aspects. It is not simply about covering the body, but about creating boundaries that shield a woman's inner self from being exposed to the harsh judgments, the leering eyes, and the superficial standards of the world. When a woman dresses modestly, she is making a conscious choice to preserve her dignity, to safeguard her personal space, and to assert that her worth cannot be reduced to her physical appearance. She understands that her value goes far beyond what is visible to the eye, and that her soul, her heart, and her mind are not objects for the world to scrutinize or judge. Modesty in this sense becomes a protective barrier, preventing others from reducing her to mere flesh and instead encouraging them to engage with the depth of her character, her intellect, and her spirit. This protection extends beyond just the physical realm. It also serves to shield the woman's emotional and mental well-being. Society often uses women's appearances as a yardstick for their value, reducing their worth to the external and the fleeting. The pressure to conform to these standards can be incredibly taxing, leading to insecurity, anxiety, and a diminished sense of self. A woman who embraces modesty, however, creates an inner fortress that protects her from these negative influences. She is not constantly seeking validation or approval based on how others perceive her. Instead, she draws her strength and her confidence from within, knowing that her worth is not contingent on how much she conforms to societal expectations, but on the strength of her character and the purity of her intentions. Modesty provides her with the mental clarity and emotional resilience to rise above the toxic messages that seek to diminish her. In a world where vulnerability is often viewed as a weakness, modesty allows a woman to maintain control over her own narrative. By choosing to preserve her privacy and dignity, she is refusing to be at the mercy of external forces that attempt to define her. Modesty offers her a form of autonomy, enabling her to control what aspects of herself she reveals to the world and what she chooses to keep private. This sense of control over her own body and soul is incredibly empowering. It allows her to navigate the world on her own terms, without feeling compelled to conform to the pressures and expectations placed upon her by others. Modesty grants her the freedom to exist in a space where she is not defined by others' perceptions, but by her own sense of worth and self-respect. Furthermore, modesty acts as a safeguard for the soul. In a world that often encourages the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, modesty offers a reminder of the importance of inner peace and contentment. It encourages a woman to focus on cultivating her character, her spirituality, and her relationship with the Creator, rather than seeking validation from the external world. By embracing modesty, she aligns herself with a higher purpose, one that is not driven by the transient desires of the material world, but by the eternal values of integrity, humility, and righteousness. Modesty helps her to guard her heart against the distractions that pull her away from her true purpose, and instead focuses her attention on the qualities that truly matter: her faith, her compassion, her wisdom, and her commitment to living a life of purpose and meaning. In addition to protecting the individual, modesty also plays a vital role in preserving the well-being of society. In a world where boundaries are often blurred and the lines between what is private and public are constantly shifting, modesty acts as a reminder of the importance of respect for oneself and for others. It fosters an environment where individuals are not reduced to their physical attributes, but are valued for their inner qualities, their character, and their actions. Modesty helps to maintain the dignity of the individual, ensuring that each person is treated with respect and consideration rather than objectified or exploited. It creates a space where people can connect on a deeper level, engaging with one another not based on appearances, but based on mutual respect, shared values, and a commitment to upholding the integrity of the human spirit. Moreover, modesty fosters a sense of balance and harmony in one's life. In a society that often encourages extremes, whether it's the pressure to be overly exposed or to completely withdraw, modesty provides a middle path, one that allows a woman to remain confident and strong without succumbing to the pressures of excess. It offers a way to express one's true self without feeling the need to either conform to the expectations of the world or withdraw in isolation. Modesty enables a woman to live a life of balance, where she is free to express her individuality without feeling the need to either flaunt or hide her true self. It creates an equilibrium where the body, mind, and soul are aligned in harmony, and where one's actions and intentions are in sync with a higher moral standard. By embracing modesty, a woman not only protects herself, but also sets an example for others. She becomes a living testimony of the power that comes from maintaining dignity and preserving integrity. In a world that often celebrates the superficial and the transient, a woman who chooses modesty becomes a beacon of strength, showing others that there is more to beauty and worth than what can be seen on the surface. She inspires others to look beyond appearances and to recognize the deeper value in themselves and in others, creating a ripple effect that encourages respect, humility, and self-preservation. Modesty, therefore, not only serves to protect the individual, but also contributes to the well-being of the broader community, fostering a culture of respect, understanding, and shared values. In conclusion, modesty is not just a protective measure for the body, but a safeguard for the soul and the spirit. It is a shield that protects a woman's dignity, her mental and emotional well-being, and her relationship with her Creator. It empowers her to live a life of authenticity, free from the pressures of the external world, and allows her to navigate the complexities of life with strength, grace, and confidence. Modesty is not about suppression, it is about preservation. The preservation of the inner self, of one's values, and of one's connection to a higher purpose. It is a choice to stand firm in one's worth, to protect one's integrity, and to live a life that reflects the beauty and strength that comes from within. Modesty is not just about how a woman dresses or the way she presents herself outwardly. It also plays a significant role in shaping her interactions with others and influences how she engages with the world around her. In a society where people often seek attention and recognition through displays of power or charm, modesty provides a powerful counterpoint by offering a way of engaging that prioritizes humility, respect, and understanding over the need for validation. It creates an environment where a woman is not trying to prove herself or compete with others for attention, but instead she creates meaningful connections based on her authentic self and the strength of her character. Through modesty, a woman can maintain a sense of grace, dignity, and inner peace, which are the true foundations of genuine relationship. When a woman embraces modesty, she sends a message to those around her that her value is not dependent on outward appearances or on how much attention she can command. Instead, it reflects a profound confidence that her worth lies in who she is, not how she looks or how others view her. This confidence, however, is not the kind of arrogance that seeks to outshine others, but rather an inner peace that allows her to remain unaffected by the superficial judgments and expectations that might otherwise dictate her actions. This deep-seated sense of self-assurance allows a woman to interact with others in a way that is genuine, thoughtful, and respectful. She does not need to impress or prove anything to anyone because she knows that her actions and behavior speak louder than her appearance or her status. One of the most remarkable aspects of modesty is that it teaches the value of self-restraint, not just in how one dresses, but in how one speaks and behaves. A woman who practices modesty is not quick to boast or seek attention through her actions. She is humble in her approach to life, choosing to let her actions, words, and behavior speak for themselves. This self-restraint gives her the ability to listen more than she speaks, to be patient rather than reactive, and to be kind and considerate to others without seeking personal gain or recognition. Through modesty, she finds the balance between being true to herself and respecting the space and dignity of others. Her actions are not guided by the desire to stand out or receive accolades, but rather by a desire to create a positive and meaningful impact in the lives of those she interacts with. Modesty encourages a woman to adopt a mindset that values substance over surface. It pushes her to focus on developing the qualities that truly matter: integrity, kindness, intelligence, and wisdom. This shift in focus from external attributes to internal virtues changes the way she relates to the world. She no longer feels the need to compete with others or to measure her worth by how much attention she can draw to herself. Instead, she seeks to build relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. She connects with people not because of their social standing, appearance, or status, but because she values them for who they are on the inside. This approach leads to more meaningful and enduring relationships where both parties are able to build trust and share experiences without the distractions of shallow judgments or expectation. Furthermore, modesty teaches a woman the art of contentment. In a world where consumerism and the pursuit of material gain often become the center of one's identity, modesty offers a refreshing alternative. A modest woman is not preoccupied with obtaining the latest trends, gadgets, or symbols of wealth. She is content with what she has, grateful for the blessings in her life, and focused on what truly brings her happiness. And this contentment enables her to live a life that is not driven by external pressures or the desire to conform to societal standards. Instead, she cultivates an internal sense of peace and satisfaction that does not depend on material wealth or social approval. This contentment is an essential part of her ability to build strong relationships, as it prevents her from becoming distracted or consumed by superficial pursuits that can often erode the foundation of healthy connection. In addition, modesty fosters a sense of mutual respect in relationships. A woman who practices modesty is mindful of the boundaries between herself and others. She respects herself and in turn expects others to respect her. Modesty does not mean withdrawal or isolation, but rather an intentional choice to maintain dignity and decorum in all interaction. By setting these boundaries, a modest woman teaches others to value her for who she is, not for the physical allure she may possess or the way she presents herself. This creates an environment where relationships are built on respect and trust, and where both parties are able to engage with one another in ways that honor their inherent dignity and individuality. Modesty also nurtures empathy. A woman who practices modesty is more likely to approach others with understanding and compassion. She understands that every person has their own struggles, challenges, and stories, and she does not judge others based on their outward appearance or social standing. Instead, she engages with people with an open heart and mind, recognizing that true beauty lies in the depth of one's character and the kindness they show toward others. This empathy allows her to build connections with people from all walks of life, to be a source of support and encouragement to those around her, and to contribute positively to her community and the people she interacts with. By choosing to interact with others through the lens of modesty, she fosters a culture of respect, humility, and compassion that can have a lasting impact on the relationships she cultivates. As modesty becomes a guiding principle in her interactions, it also transforms the way she perceives the world. Rather than seeing herself as an object to be admired or evaluated based on her appearance, she begins to see herself as a person with unique gifts, talents, and qualities that go beyond the physical realm. This shift in perception allows her to engage with the world in a more balanced and grounded way, as she is no longer caught up in the whirlwind of external judgments and comparisons. Instead, she is focused on building her inner self, cultivating her virtues, and contributing to the well-being of others. Her sense of worth is no longer contingent on how much attention she receives, but on the positive impact she makes in the lives of others and the authenticity with which she lives her life. Ultimately, modesty is not just a way of dressing or presenting oneself, but a way of being that transforms the way a woman interacts with the world and the people around her. It encourages a woman to engage with others in a way that is genuine, respectful, and compassionate, focusing on the deeper qualities that define true beauty. It teaches the importance of humility, contentment, and empathy, and it fosters relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Through modesty, a woman can create a life that is not driven by the need for external validation, but by a deep, unwavering commitment to living authentically, with integrity, and with compassion for others. Modesty in a woman's life is not just about the way she presents herself outwardly. It is an intrinsic part of how she carries herself in the world. A woman who embodies modesty understands that her worth is not defined by the approval or attention of others, but by the strength of her character and the integrity of her actions. She does not seek to impose herself on others through boastfulness or arrogance, nor does she feel the need to draw attention to her own qualities. Instead, her presence speaks volumes without her needing to utter a single word, as her character and grace shine through in everything she does. Modesty is a quiet strength that emanates from within, and it is a form of empowerment that allows her to stay grounded in a world that often elevates the superficial and the fleeting. When a woman adopts modesty, she embraces a lifestyle that is focused on substance, not appearance. She understands that external beauty is fleeting and that true worth is determined by the depth of one's character. Modesty in this context is not about hiding away or making oneself invisible. Rather, it is about ensuring that what is visible to the world reflects the true essence of who she is, her wisdom, her humility, her kindness, and her strength. It is a form of empowerment because it allows her to navigate life confidently without feeling the need to conform to society's ever-changing standards of beauty or to compete with others for attention. She is comfortable with who she is, and this inner confidence gives her the freedom to be herself without the burden of needing external validation or approval. In a world that often encourages individuals to seek fame, status, or material gain, modesty offers an alternative way of living, one that is not driven by external rewards but by internal peace. A modest woman understands that her worth is not tied to how much she achieves or what she accumulates in terms of wealth, status, or admiration. Instead, she finds fulfillment in her inner strength, her relationships with others, and her connection to her higher purpose. She does not measure herself against the achievements or material possessions of others, but instead focuses on her personal growth, her contributions to the well-being of those around her, and her role in her community. This focus on inner fulfillment rather than external recognition is what makes modesty such a powerful force. It is an anchor in a world that is often defined by the pursuit of superficial goals, allowing her to remain true to herself while navigating the complexities of life. Modesty also provides a sense of inner peace and contentment. It shields a woman from the anxiety and insecurity that can come from constantly comparing herself to others or striving to meet societal expectations. When a woman chooses modesty, she is choosing to prioritize her own well-being over the approval of others. She does not feel the need to constantly prove herself or compete for attention, and she does not derive her sense of worth from how she is perceived by the world. Instead, she is content in the knowledge that her value is not contingent on external opinions or fleeting trends. This peace that comes from knowing that her worth is inherent and not dependent on others allows her to live a life of confidence, free from the stress and pressure that often come from trying to meet the standards set by society. By embracing modesty, a woman sets a standard for the way she wants to be treated by others. She teaches those around her that she is worthy of respect and dignity, not because of her appearance or material success, but because of the strength and integrity of her character. Modesty allows her to create boundaries that protect her dignity, and it fosters an environment where others are encouraged to engage with her in a manner that is respectful, thoughtful, and genuine. It sends a message that her value does not come from how much she reveals or how much attention she attracts, but from the inner qualities that she embodies. In this way, modesty becomes a form of self-respect that encourages others to respect her as well. In relationships, modesty plays a transformative role in shaping the way a woman connects with others. It allows her to engage in meaningful, authentic relationships where both parties can connect based on mutual respect rather than external factors. A modest woman does not seek to dominate or manipulate others to get her way. Instead, she values the voices and perspectives of others, listening with empathy and engaging in conversations with humility and understanding. Her modesty enables her to form deep connections as she is not preoccupied with self-promotion or the desire to be admired. She is more concerned with creating genuine, lasting relationships built on trust, respect, and shared values. Moreover, modesty serves as a powerful reminder that a woman's true worth is not tied to external validation or superficial appearances. In a culture that often elevates the loudest, the most visible, or the most attention-grabbing individuals, modesty provides a stark contrast by demonstrating that true strength and beauty come from within. A modest woman does not need to seek attention or prove her worth. Her confidence comes from knowing that her value is inherent. Independent of the fleeting judgments of others, she stands firm in this knowledge, grounded in her self-respect. And this strength allows her to navigate the world with a sense of calm, assurance that does not waver in the face of external pressures. In the broader context of society, modesty contributes to a culture of respect and mutual understanding. When modesty is embraced, it fosters an environment where individuals are judged not by their appearances or possessions, but by their actions and the integrity of their character. Modesty encourages people to look beyond the superficial and to recognize the deeper qualities that define a person's worth. It promotes a society where the focus is on personal development, kindness, and authenticity rather than the pursuit of fame, wealth, or status. A woman who embraces modesty becomes a living example of these values, inspiring others to live with similar principles of dignity, respect, and humility. Ultimately, modesty is a powerful form of self-expression that empowers a woman to live life on her own terms. It is not about suppressing her identity or hiding her true self, but about presenting herself in a way that reflects her values, her strength, and her integrity. Modesty allows her to preserve her dignity while interacting with the world in a genuine, meaningful way. It fosters a deep sense of inner peace, contentment, and self-respect, and it provides a framework for building authentic, respectful relationships with others. Through modesty, a woman finds freedom from the external pressures and distractions of the world and is empowered to live a life that reflects her true worth. She becomes an example of the quiet yet powerful strength that comes from embracing who she truly is without the need to seek validation from the outside world. Modesty in its truest form is not just an individual pursuit. It has the profound ability to elevate society as a whole. When a woman practices modesty, she becomes a beacon of inspiration to those around her, demonstrating through her actions that true beauty and worth are not dependent on the external or the transient. She embodies a higher standard that shifts the focus from superficiality and shallow pursuits to something far more enduring and meaningful. Modesty has the power to influence the way people interact with one another, create an environment that is rooted in mutual respect, kindness, and dignity, where each person is valued for their character and actions rather than their outward appearance or material success. The impact of a modest woman extends far beyond herself as it ripples outward, influencing the people in her life and the community at large. In her interactions with others, she sets an example of how to engage with the world in a way that is not driven by self-interest, but by a commitment to the greater good. Her modesty prevents her from seeking to dominate or control those around her, but rather encourages her to support and uplift others. She understands that true power is not derived from asserting dominance or seeking validation, but from lifting up those around her, contributing to a collective sense of well-being, and fostering an environment of harmony and understanding. When a woman lives with modesty, she helps to foster a culture of humility and grace. In a society where the loudest voices and the most attention-grabbing personalities are often the most celebrated, modesty provides a refreshing contrast. It teaches that the true measure of a person's worth lies in their character, their compassion, and their actions. A modest woman is not seeking the spotlight, but instead her light shines from within, quietly illuminating the lives of those around her. She does not need to boast or seek accolades because her actions speak louder than any words or external validation ever could. This humility becomes a powerful force in her community, as it challenges others to look beyond the surface and to recognize the inherent worth of every individual, regardless of their social standing or external appearance. Modesty also plays a crucial role in preserving the values that bind society together. In a world where instant gratification and materialism often take precedence over deeper values, modesty acts as a grounding force that reminds individuals of the importance of integrity, honesty, and respect for others. A woman who practices modesty is not swayed by the ever-changing trends or the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Instead, she remains steadfast in her commitment to her principles and values, offering a model for others to follow. Her example of self-restraint and self-respect encourages others to examine their own lives and consider how they might live in a way that is more aligned with the things that truly matter: relationships, character, and the well-being of others. In this way, modesty serves as a counterbalance to the often hyper-competitive, image-obsessed culture that permeates modern society. When women and men alike embrace modesty, it shifts the collective mindset from a focus on personal gain and recognition to a focus on contributing to the greater good. Modesty teaches the value of community over individualism, reminding people that their worth is not defined by how much they can accumulate or how much attention they can garner, but by how they treat others and the positive impact they have on the world around them. A modest woman, by her very nature, becomes a catalyst for creating a culture of respect, mutual care, and collaboration rather than one of division, comparison, and competition. Furthermore, modesty encourages a deeper connection to the spiritual and moral aspects of life. In a world that often places value on the material, the fleeting, and the superficial, modesty draws attention to the importance of nurturing the soul, cultivating virtues, and striving for personal growth. A woman who lives modestly understands that her connection to the Creator and to her own higher purpose is far more valuable than any external achievement or material possession. This understanding allows her to live with a sense of purpose that transcends the pressures of the world and instead focuses on her role in contributing to the moral and spiritual betterment of society. Through her example, she encourages others to look inward, to reflect on their values, and to prioritize their connection to something greater than themselves. By embracing modesty, a woman can help to foster a sense of dignity and respect within her community. Modesty teaches individuals to approach one another with empathy and understanding, to see beyond outward appearances, and to value the internal qualities that define a person's true worth. This approach to relationships can have a profound impact on how people interact with one another, encouraging deeper, more meaningful connections that are not based on superficial judgments or fleeting impressions, but on mutual respect and shared values. When a woman is modest, she creates an atmosphere where others feel encouraged to engage with one another in a similar spirit of humility and kindness, which can lead to stronger, more supportive communities where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Moreover, modesty provides a sense of stability and clarity in a world that can often feel chaotic and confusing. In a culture that often prioritizes instant gratification, external appearances, and material success, modesty offers a much-needed reminder of the importance of restraint, patience, and self-control. It allows individuals to step back from the noise of the world and to focus on what truly matters, developing one's character, nurturing meaningful relationships, and living a life of integrity. A modest woman serves as a steadying influence in a world that is often swayed by the winds of popularity and trends, offering a calm and grounded presence that encourages others to live in accordance with their own values rather than being swept up in the ever-changing tides of societal expectations. In conclusion, modesty is not just an individual virtue. It is a force that has the potential to shape society for the better. It fosters a culture of respect, humility, and mutual care, where people are valued for their inner qualities rather than their outward appearances or material success. A modest woman becomes a beacon of inspiration, showing others the value of living with integrity, self-respect, and a commitment to the greater good. Her example challenges societal norms that elevate the superficial and the fleeting and encourages others to focus on what truly matters: character, relationships, and the well-being of the community. Through modesty, she contributes to the creation of a more compassionate, respectful, and balanced society, one where individuals are empowered to live in alignment with their higher purpose and to engage with the world in a way that reflects their true. The role of modesty in a woman's life extends far beyond her personal conduct. It also influences the way in which she interacts with others, offering a model of behavior that nurtures kindness, empathy, and understanding. When a woman practices modesty, it is a reflection of her deep respect for herself and for those around her. This respect, however, is not just about how she presents herself or the way she dresses, but about the way she approaches all aspects of her life. Modesty shapes how she treats others, how she listens and responds, and how she navigates the complexities of the world without losing her integrity or her sense of dignity. It is an inner strength that becomes a guiding force in her relationships, enabling her to build connections that are based on mutual respect, trust, and appreciation rather than the superficial judgments and fleeting desires that often dominate the world. When a woman embraces modesty, she prioritizes the well-being and dignity of those around her. She does not use her charm or beauty to manipulate situations or gain advantage, but instead, she uses her intelligence, her kindness, and her wisdom to navigate her relationships. This creates an atmosphere where others feel respected, valued, and heard without feeling the pressure to conform to society's often distorted standards of beauty, success, or status. Through her modesty, she fosters an environment of acceptance where people are free to be their authentic selves without fear of judgment or comparison. In this way, modesty helps to create a culture of inclusivity and mutual respect, where the focus shifts from outward appearances to the depth of character and the value of each individual as a person. Modesty also plays a critical role in promoting self-awareness. A woman who is modest is deeply connected to her own sense of self and her internal worth. She is not driven by the need to impress others or to seek validation from the outside world. Instead, her sense of self-esteem is rooted in her inner virtues, the qualities that define her as a person. This self-awareness allows her to remain grounded, even when faced with the pressures of a society that often values appearance over substance. She does not measure her worth by how much she is admired or by how closely she conforms to societal expectations, but rather by the strength of her character, her integrity, and the positive impact she has on the lives of others. Through this awareness, she is able to engage with the world in a way that is authentic and meaningful without losing sight of her core values. In relationships, modesty serves as a reminder that true beauty lies in the way a woman treats others, not just in her physical appearance or her external accomplishments. A modest woman understands that her actions and words are far more significant than any outward display of beauty or wealth. She seeks to build connections that are based on mutual respect, shared values, and understanding, rather than on superficial attractions or fleeting desires. This deep understanding of the importance of inner beauty allows her to form relationships that are genuine, lasting, and based on real emotional and intellectual connection, rather than the shallow bonds that are often formed in the pursuit of external validation. Modesty, therefore, fosters an atmosphere of honesty, trust, and respect, where both parties feel safe to express themselves without fear of being judged or misunderstood. Moreover, modesty allows a woman to remain unaffected by the fleeting judgments or comparisons that often define relationships in the modern world. In a society where people are often evaluated based on their appearance, social standing, or material wealth, a modest woman remains immune to these external pressures. She does not base her sense of self-worth on how others perceive her or on the approval she receives from those around her. Instead, she is guided by her own internal compass, which is rooted in her values, her principles, and her deep respect for others. This detachment from the judgments of others allows her to engage in relationships that are not tainted by competition, comparison, or insecurity. Instead, her interactions are marked by a genuine desire to connect, understand, and support those around her. Through modesty, a woman also learns the art of listening, a quality that is often overlooked in a world that places a premium on speaking and performing. A modest woman understands that true communication is not just about talking, but about listening attentively and empathetically to what others have to say. She does not interrupt or dominate conversations, but instead, she creates space for others to share their thoughts and feelings. This willingness to listen fosters a deeper understanding between people and helps to create more meaningful connections. When a woman listens with sincerity and without judgment, she shows others that their words, their feelings, and their experiences matter. This kind of active listening encourages openness, trust, and mutual respect, which are the foundation of strong and healthy relationships. Furthermore, modesty encourages a woman to act with kindness and compassion, particularly when faced with difficult situations or when interacting with those who are vulnerable or in need. A modest woman does not seek to elevate herself at the expense of others, but rather she uses her position to help, support, and uplift those around her. She does not use her power or influence to dominate or control, but to empower others and to create a sense of solidarity and mutual care. Her modesty prevents her from taking advantage of others, and it leads her to treat everyone, regardless of their background or status, with the same level of respect and consideration. This kindness, born out of humility and empathy, has the power to transform relationships, making them more authentic and compassionate. Modesty also teaches patience. particularly in moments of conflict or difficulty. A woman who practices modesty does not react impulsively or angrily to challenging situations, but instead she takes the time to consider her response thoughtfully and with restraint. She does not seek to escalate tensions or to assert her dominance, but rather she approaches conflicts with a spirit of understanding and compromise. This patient approach helps to resolve misunderstandings, foster reconciliation, and create stronger bonds between individuals. Modesty allows her to step back from her emotions and respond in a way that is respectful and calm, preventing unnecessary drama or hurt feelings from undermining relationships. In addition, modesty fosters an environment where gratitude and appreciation take precedence over entitlement and greed. A modest woman understands the value of contentment, and she expresses gratitude for the blessings in her life, no matter how small they may seem. This attitude of thankfulness is contagious, as it encourages others to appreciate what they have and to recognize the good in their own lives. Modesty teaches that true happiness does not come from accumulation or comparison, but from recognizing the beauty and goodness in the present moment. By practicing gratitude, a modest woman inspires others to shift their focus from what they lack to what they have, fostering a sense of contentment and peace in all relationships. Through her modesty, a woman has the power to influence and shape the relationships she forms, transforming them from shallow, transactional connections into deep, meaningful bonds. She becomes a role model for those around her, teaching the importance of treating others with respect, kindness, and empathy. In a world that often values appearances over substance, a modest woman shows others the true value of inner beauty and character. She sets the tone for her relationships, encouraging others to focus on what truly matters: authenticity, respect, and genuine connection. Through modesty, she helps create a more compassionate, understanding, and harmonious world where relationships are built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared values. Modesty, when embodied by a woman, does not merely alter her personal interactions or the way she perceives herself. It transforms her entire outlook on life and the world around her. In many ways, modesty allows a woman to transcend the fleeting and superficial aspects of life, focusing instead on values and principles that are timeless. By choosing modesty, a woman demonstrates that she is not defined by the ever-changing fashions or the transient opinions of the world. She understands that her worth is not based on how she looks, what she owns, or the attention she receives, but rather on her inner qualities and her actions. Her commitment to modesty serves as a shield against the pressures of a society that often equates success and beauty with material wealth and external validation. Instead of being swayed by external judgments or the pursuit of popularity, a modest woman remains firmly rooted in her values, navigating life with grace, humility, and a deep sense of purpose. Living modestly allows a woman to maintain a level of independence and self-sufficiency that is unshaken by the approval or disapproval of others. She does not rely on the opinions or applause of the world to validate her sense of self. Instead, her confidence comes from within. Modesty helps her to stay grounded, even in a society that often rewards those who seek to make themselves the center of attention. By not seeking to dominate conversations or to be the focal point of every interaction, a modest woman creates space for others to shine, and in doing so, she fosters an environment where everyone feels valued for their intrinsic worth rather than for what they can show or boast about. Her humility becomes a guiding force in her life, allowing her to approach the world with an openness and compassion that is rare in a culture often obsessed with individualism and personal gain. Moreover, modesty encourages a deeper connection with others. A woman who practices modesty is not preoccupied with impressing others or with how she can use her appearance or status to gain favor. Instead, her interactions are focused on creating authentic relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Her modesty allows her to listen to others without judgment, to approach every conversation with empathy, and to offer support and kindness without expecting anything in return. She does not seek to manipulate or control situations, but rather to be a source of stability and peace in the lives of those she encounters. In this way, her modesty is not a withdrawal from the world, but a way of engaging with it in a meaningful, impactful way. In a world that often elevates the loudest, most attention-grabbing voices, modesty offers a powerful counter-narrative. A woman who is modest teaches others that there is strength in restraint, wisdom in silence, and power in humility. She does not need to boast about her accomplishments, flaunt her achievements, or seek validation from others. Her actions speak louder than any words could as she quietly goes about her life with dignity, grace, and a deep sense of purpose. Through her example, others are inspired to seek depth over surface, substance over style, and authenticity over appearance. The modest woman does not compete for recognition, but instead finds fulfillment in her own quiet contributions to the world around her. She knows that true success is not measured by external accolades, but by the impact one has on the lives of others and the way one lives in alignment with their core values. Additionally, modesty helps to cultivate an attitude of gratitude and contentment. A modest woman is not driven by the need to accumulate wealth, fame, or possessions. Instead, she finds joy and fulfillment in the simple, everyday blessings that life provides. Her modesty allows her to see the beauty in the small things, whether it's the warmth of a kind word, the joy of meaningful companionship, or the peace that comes from living with integrity. She understands that true happiness is not found in the accumulation of material goods, but in the cultivation of inner peace, spiritual growth, and personal fulfillment. By practicing modesty, she encourages others to shift their focus from the external and the material to the internal and the meaningful. Through her example, she shows that happiness comes not from what one has, but from who one is. In a deeper sense, modesty also allows a woman to build a life that is free from the distractions of vanity and ego. The constant pursuit of beauty, recognition, and material success can be exhausting and unfulfilling, leading individuals to feel empty and disconnected from their true selves. A modest woman, however, is not distracted by these pursuits. She is focused on nurturing her character, strengthening her relationships, and contributing to the well-being of others. Her life is centered around values that transcend the temporary and the superficial. She does not measure her success by the latest trends or the opinions of the public, but by her ability to remain true to herself, to be kind to others, and to live a life of purpose. In this way, modesty provides a sense of clarity and direction, allowing her to navigate life with intention and focus, undistracted by the fleeting desires that often lead others astray. Furthermore, modesty shapes the way a woman deals with challenges and adversity. In times of difficulty, she does not seek to draw attention to her struggles or to complain about her circumstances. Instead, she handles adversity with grace, resilience, and patience. Her modesty prevents her from seeking sympathy or validation from others, and instead she turns to her inner strength and faith to overcome her challenges. This strength in the face of adversity serves as an example to others, inspiring them to approach their own struggles with the same humility and perseverance. A modest woman does not seek to make her difficulties the center of attention, but rather she faces them quietly with dignity and a deep trust that her strength comes from within. In doing so, she becomes a source of inspiration for others, showing them that true strength is not in boasting about one's hardships, but in how one rises above them with grace and humility. The influence of modesty also extends to the way a woman perceives the world around her. In a society that often places value on external appearances, popularity, and material wealth, modesty offers a refreshing perspective. A modest woman is not caught up in the race for status or the pursuit of superficial goals. Instead, she focuses on the things that truly matter: love, compassion, kindness, and integrity. Her modesty allows her to see the world through a lens of gratitude and appreciation, recognizing the beauty in every moment and in every individual. She is not easily swayed by the opinions or judgments of others, and she does not seek to impress or compete. Instead, she approaches life with an open heart, a clear mind, and a deep sense of purpose, knowing that true fulfillment comes from living in accordance with her values and contributing to the well-being of others. Ultimately, the role of modesty in a woman's life is transformative. It changes not only the way she interacts with the world, but also the way she perceives herself and her place in the world. Through modesty, a woman learns to live with integrity, to build authentic relationships, and to find contentment in the things that truly matter. She does not need to seek external validation or approval, but finds strength in her own character, her inner values, and her quiet contributions to the world. Modesty frees her from the pressures of the external world, allowing her to live a life that is meaningful, purposeful, and aligned with her higher self. In this way, modesty is not just a virtue, it is a way of life, one that brings peace, clarity, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Modesty serves as a deeply transformative force in a woman's life, and one of the most profound effects it has is the way it shapes her understanding of her relationship with the Creator. At its core, modesty is an outward reflection of an inner submission, a submission to a higher purpose, a commitment to living a life of integrity, and a recognition that true beauty and worth are not defined by external measures, but by one's relationship with the divine. When a woman practices modesty, she acknowledges that she is part of a greater plan, one that is beyond the fleeting and superficial aspects of the material world. This understanding shapes how she views herself and her actions, grounding her in a sense of humility that transcends her individual desires and ego and places her in alignment with the divine will. In a world that often values appearance, status, and material success, modesty offers a refreshing contrast. A woman who lives with modesty does not measure her worth by how she compares to others or by the superficial standards set by society. Instead, she understands that her true value lies in her faith, her devotion, and her commitment to living in accordance with the principles set forth by the Creator. Her modesty becomes a means of expressing gratitude for the blessings she has been given, and it is a way of acknowledging that she is not the ultimate authority over her life. There is a higher power, a force that is guiding her toward a greater purpose. This awareness helps her to keep her desires in check, to avoid the distractions that come with the pursuit of fleeting pleasures, and to focus on cultivating virtues that will bring her closer to her true purpose. By embracing modesty, a woman submits herself to a path of spiritual growth. Modesty is not just about outward appearances or behavior. It is also about cultivating an inner sense of self-restraint, discipline, and self-awareness. A modest woman is constantly aware of the impact her actions and choices have on her relationship with the Creator. She understands that every word she speaks, every interaction she has, and every decision she makes is an opportunity to either strengthen or weaken that bond. Modesty, therefore, becomes a spiritual practice, a way of living that is focused on mindfulness, sincerity, and a deep commitment to following the guidance and commandments that lead to a life of peace and fulfillment. In this light, modesty also encourages a woman to embrace her role as a servant of the Creator. It is an expression of her understanding that she is not here to seek fame, attention, or validation, but to serve a higher cause. The act of modesty, in both its outward and inward forms, becomes an act of worship, a way for a woman to honor the divine and to align herself with the greater good. By embracing modesty, she seeks to embody the values that the Creator has outlined for humanity. Values such as kindness, humility, patience, and empathy. Modesty reminds her that her life is not her own, but is a gift to be used in service of others and in fulfilling the divine purpose for which she was created. One of the most powerful aspects of modesty in this context is the way it enables a woman to detach from the ego and the need for recognition. The world constantly pushes the notion that success and fulfillment are found through external validation and the approval of others. Modesty, however, challenges this mindset, teaching that true success is not in being seen or praised by others, but in living in accordance with the Creator's will, regardless of external acknowledgement. A woman who embraces modesty does not seek to elevate herself above others, nor does she strive to draw attention to her own accomplishments. Instead, she finds contentment in the knowledge that her efforts, her actions, and her faith are seen by the Creator alone, and that this is where her true fulfillment lies. This sense of detachment from worldly recognition is freeing, as it allows a woman to live without the constant pressure to perform or to impress. It teaches her that her worth does not lie in how much she can accumulate, how many accolades she can collect, or how others perceive her. Instead, her worth is found in her relationship with the Creator, in the way she lives her life in alignment with divine principles, and in the peace and contentment that come from living with integrity. Modesty helps a woman to live with a sense of peace and tranquility, untroubled by the need to compete or compare herself to others. It reminds her that the pursuit of external validation is a fleeting and ultimately unfulfilling endeavor, while the pursuit of spiritual growth and connection with the Creator is eternal. As a woman embraces modesty, she also finds herself empowered in her role within society and within her relationships. Far from being a passive or submissive trait, modesty is an active choice, a conscious decision to live with purpose, to cultivate virtues, and to contribute positively to the world. It empowers her to speak with kindness, to act with compassion, and to engage with others in a way that reflects the best of her character. Modesty prevents her from being swayed by societal pressures, helping her to stay true to her values and principles, even when the world around her might be pushing her in different directions. In this way, modesty becomes a powerful force, enabling her to navigate the complexities of life with confidence, grace, and an unwavering commitment to her higher purpose. Through modesty, a woman also learns the importance of gratitude and contentment. She becomes more attuned to the blessings that she has been given, recognizing that these are gifts from the Creator, not things to be taken for granted or used as tools for self-promotion. Modesty encourages her to be content with what she has rather than constantly striving for more. It teaches her that true happiness comes not from accumulation, but from appreciating the present moment, being thankful for the gifts she has, and focusing on the internal qualities that bring true joy, such as kindness, patience, and love. This sense of contentment allows her to live with a deeper sense of peace, free from the anxiety and dissatisfaction that often accompany the pursuit of material wealth and external validation. The role of modesty also extends to how a woman interacts with others. In a world that often encourages competition, comparison, and self-promotion, modesty encourages a woman to live in a way that fosters connection and unity. Modesty enables her to approach others with humility and respect, recognizing their inherent worth and treating them with kindness and consideration. It encourages her to avoid judgment and criticism, and instead to focus on the qualities that unite her with others rather than the differences that divide. Modesty allows her to engage in relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than on the desire for approval or validation. Ultimately, modesty in a woman's life is a manifestation of her devotion to the Creator, her commitment to living with integrity, and her recognition that true beauty and worth are found not in outward appearances, but in the state of the heart and the intentions behind her actions. It allows her to cultivate virtues that bring her closer to her higher purpose, to live in alignment with divine principles, and to navigate the world with grace, dignity, and a deep sense of inner peace. Through modesty, a woman transforms not only her own life, but also the lives of those around her, creating a ripple effect of kindness, empathy, and respect. Modesty is, therefore, not just a personal choice. It is a way of life, a means of honoring the Creator, and a path to spiritual fulfillment and peace.